with this program. I'll start first of all by introducing myself and telling you who I am. For those of you who don't know me, who never attended this program before, my name is Emma Clark, and I'm a human resources and organizational behavior specialist. Actually, the way I always like to explain it is this: I'm a woman who wears a lot of different hats, okay? And everything depends on what particular event or function or program or project that I'm in, all right, that requires whatever hat it is that I need to wear, all right? So I'm a multifaceted woman. I've got lots of different skills, but at the heart of it, I am a proud member of the human resources community. So I am a human resource specialist with specialization in organizational behavior. So there's so many different, human resources is such a beautiful subject, all right? There's so many different aspects of human resources. I am a specialist in organizational behavior. So I concern myself a lot with how individuals behave within organizations, all right? So I'm very concerned about individual effectiveness and organizational effectiveness. I studied at the London School of Economics, where I got my master's degree in human resources and organizational behavior. And I also studied there as a British Chevening Scholar. I am a certified teacher of English to speakers of other languages, so I tend to also do a lot of sessions on communication skills, leadership communication, presentation skills, effective speaking, writing, etc. I am a former banker. I worked for about 10 years in the banking industry before I quit, and I said, look, this is not where I want to spend the rest of my life. Started out at an organization called Commerce Bank. I even have to squeeze my eyes to remember it. It doesn't exist anymore. And if you can remember the name of that bank, then you are old. You really are old. And then I moved on to another organization called Crystal Bank of Africa, which became part of the UBA group. And then I moved on from that organization to another organization called FSB International Bank, which collapsed into the Fidelity Bank Group. And then I also worked for an organization called Zenith International Bank, but it's still existing, thank God. And then I moved on from Zenith to Intercontinental Bank. Intercontinental Bank collapsed into Access Bank. Access Bank brought over Intercontinental Bank. And I finished my banking career in Bond Bank, which is now part of the Polaris Bank Group. All right, so that's me in a nutshell. And in another life, I say this jokingly, in another life, I am a lawyer, all right? I actually studied to be a lawyer. I am registered at the Supreme Court. I'm a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. I don't practice as much as I like to, because I'm looking at, I'm actually part of a law firm, all right? So I try to contribute my own little bit when I can, all right? So I am a lawyer at the heart of it. And I've had a wonderful career, 28 years of experience. I've worked with Africans from different parts of the sub-Saharan continent. I've worked across the entire West African coast. I've worked with people from Rwanda, people from Zambia, people from Congo, people from Mozambique. I've worked with quite a number of different people, all right? And I have experience across the entire, because I trained to do everything in HR, but I tend to spend a lot of time, all right? When I'm not consulting, I spend a lot of time headhunting and in learning and development, employee development. So I do a lot of recruitment and I do a lot of employee development. And that has given me a deep understanding of the issues that career professionals go through, all right? As they work to develop their lives, to develop their careers. And I think this is where I developed my passion for wanting to build people, for wanting to help career professionals develop themselves where their careers are concerned. So we've had a number of, so before I go on to talk about what we've been doing since January, I'll just tell you a little bit of what I do. I have four brands that I work with. All right, I manage or coordinate. I have Theos People Resources that is in charge of human resource and organizational behavior consulting. So we work with organizations, we do a lot of consulting, training and development, etc., etc. And I have another organization called Capacity Miners, and that is my job recruitment, my headhunting company. And then I have another company which I run in partnership with my mother called LASSEM, and the focus of LASSEM is to help people build effective communication skills. And then this brand is the Learn with Emma Clark. I think this is the brand I love the most, okay? And on this, through this brand, I provide coaching, mentoring, writing, public speaking. I do all of this on this brand, okay? And I offer mentoring programs, okay? I'm designing that now because, as I said, I see that I have a lot of the entry-level people here with me. So I'm thinking of some of the programs, the things that I'm going to talk about today may not necessarily benefit you at this point in your career, but I'm trying to develop a mentoring program, especially for the entry-level students. And then I'm also thinking of doing something for my community members in the HR community, all right? And then I have my coaching program, all right? And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is from that coaching program. And then I have an executive branding service, all right? So that's what I do on Learn with Emma Clark, and I will share the website address. You can go to the website and look through the website and see what it is that we do in Learn with Emma Clark. All right, so we've been doing quite a lot since January. We started this in January. I started posting on LinkedIn, and then questions started coming in, and I said, okay, well, let me do these free webinars, and so that a lot of the questions that keep coming in, when I do my posts on LinkedIn can be answered. All right. So we started since January. We've done a lot. We've had a lot of fun since January. First post that we did in January was about how to build the career of your dreams. So we talked a lot about careers. We talked about the difference between a career and a job. We talked about the career path, career progress. We talked about effective career planning. We talked about the career pitfalls, and we learned about the stinking careers, all right? The careers that are not flourishing, all right? The careers that are in stagnation, the people who are experiencing dissatisfaction, the people who are peaked, the people who are unfolding. We talked a lot about that during that first session. And then I introduced the attendees at that program to Set and Pact, which are tools that I have developed to help you to plan your career effectively. In February, we moved on to talk about another topic. We talked about CVs. We talked about the challenges that mid to senior level career professionals face when they're writing CVs. I showed them the common errors, and then I showed them some CV writing. I gave them some CV writing tips, okay? So if you wanna know what it was that we talked about in that particular video, you can go and watch it on the Learn with Emma Clark YouTube channel. You'll find that information there. All right, so what do we want to talk about today? What is our main objective for being here today? 5 things. I'm going to take us through this very, 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 very quickly. All right, so first of all, we want to learn about the high-level interview. We want to learn about the characteristics of a high-level interview. We want to understand what the issues are with the high-level interviews. I have interviewed people from entry level all the way to the board, to CEO. So I know all the different pitfalls that people at different phases in their lives face, all right? I want to share some of this information with you. And then we want to talk about high-level interview preparation skills. And then we also want to talk about salary negotiation skills. All right, so let's move on. We want to get started with the program of today, all right? And what we're here to talk about is the high-level interview skill. What is the high-level interview? What does it mean? When I said, why did I ask you to come for this discussion? All right, and why did I call it high level? It means there must be a difference between the high-level interview and the normal interview. So first of all, let's start by gaining an understanding of what the normal interview is. What is an interview? What is interviewing all about? Okay, the job interview, we know what it is. It's used primarily to help employers determine what the candidate is like as a person, all right? And it is used because studies show that recruiters tend to trust their first impressions more than objective tests. So it's very simple. We could easily get your CV, give you a test, you pass the test, your CV is fine, and then we tell you that it's okay. But generally, most recruiters do not stop there. They will tell you, you passed the test, you passed the assessment, but you know what? You've now got to come in for an interview. So generally, that's what an interview is all about. And there is enough research to show that, you know what, if you get the interview right, when you get that person in, that person is likely to excel and to perform quite well. All right. There are interview failures, and there are times that you have what is called recruitment failures. But generally, you will find that if you get the interview process, right, that person will end up being the right fit for the job. All right. So that's what an interview is all about. And what are interviewers looking out for? They're looking out for, number one, job suitability. They're looking out for your visual appearance, how you look, all right? What kind of impression you command. And then they're looking out for intra and interpersonal skills. So that is the basic definition of what an interview is. Nevertheless, we've got to go a little further. If we want to talk about high-level interviews, we've got to go a step higher. So what is a high-level interview? When you say I've been called for a high-level interview, when someone comes to you and says, look, you know what, I'm going to be busy next week, I won't have the time to talk to you, etc., 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 I'm going for a high-level interview. What does that connote? It's very simple. When you're going for a high-level interview, it is an interview for a highly senior executive or board level position. And at this level, the game is different. The game is different. Everything is different at this level. You're talking about the pay, the compensation, the role, the kind of autonomy you're going to have, the kind of things that you're going to control, the kind of responsibilities that you're going to control. I remember that a friend of mine recently got a high-level job at one of the major multinationals, global multinationals. And when her mother heard that she had gotten this job, right now she's controlling about 80-something countries. Her mother started counting 1, 2, 3, 4. She said 80-something countries. My own daughter controlling 80-something countries around Africa. So that is in fact, I think it was beyond Africa. I think it was Africa and the Middle East. So that is the high-level interview. The stakes are different. You're probably going to be interviewing for one of the chief positions, or you're going to be interviewing, when we're saying chief positions, we're talking about chief finance officer, chief marketing officer, chief head of human resources, chief communications officer, technology officer, chief operating officer, so on and so forth. And then when you're talking about that role, you're also talking about, as I said earlier, covering different regions. Okay, so it goes just probably beyond Nigeria. You're now talking about being a chief of probably West Africa or the Sub-Saharan region or wherever it is. You're also probably interviewing for a CEO role or an executive director role or a non-executive director role, or you might be interviewing for some of the lesser roles to the chief roles or to the executive management roles, like the HR director, which is highly senior, a senior manager role. You're looking at an area or regional role in Nigeria. This is the high-level interview. The stakes are different. The discussions are different. The kinds of things that what is on the table is different. And you have got to understand what this interview is all about if you want to advance in your career. All right, so I also want to point out something to you, because this is something that I've noticed. There is a difference between the high-level interview that happens within the structured environment and the high-level interview that happens within an unstructured environment. So you can have a high-level interview to enter a highly structured environment, and I'll explain what I mean by that. And then you can have a high-level interview to enter an unstructured environment. Now, what is that a structured environment? A structured environment is a highly structured bureaucratic organization that has clear policies, clear organizational design, and a defined strategy. And then you have the unstructured environment that is usually an entrepreneurial organization, high growth organization, a sole proprietor organization. So I'll just give you some more examples of this on the next page. So you know when you're going in for a high level interview at a structured organization, you're probably going to interview at a highly capitalized and highly structured private sector organization. You're going to interview possibly for the World Bank, for a development organization like the World Bank, AFDB, organizations like that, or you're going to interview at a multilateral or bilateral organization. You're going to interview with a foundation like the Bill Gates Foundation, or you're going to interview with a highly funded non-governmental organization or social impact organization. And then when you're going for an interview at an unstructured organization, you're going for an interview with an entrepreneurial company, with a sole proprietorship, or with a high growth startup. So what am I saying? There's a difference between being a chief finance officer at, say, AFDB, and then being a chief finance officer at Working Right Now company or something like that. The stakes are different. All right, so it's just important for you to know. All right, so what is the difference between a high-level interview and a traditional interview? What should you expect? And it's some of those things that we're going to look at during this session. Here are some of the things. I mean, there are a lot of things, but I've chosen the 5 most important, what I feel from my experience are the 5 most important things. Number 1, you will find that with most high-level interviews, they're highly structured. And what does that mean? The interviews are planned, the questions are targeted, and they are structured to determine if the interviewees have the requisite skills. They're highly competence focused. And I am emphasizing this because what I have found I've been doing this now for over a decade, interviewing people from different walks of life over a decade. What I have found out is that a lot of people are never prepared for that competence assessment. They're never prepared for it. It doesn't matter if they spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We've seen people with a lot of experience fail competence-based assessments. All right, so it is also behavior focused, and I'm going to explain what I mean by all these terms. It is performance-oriented focus. People are looking at your performance. What can you bring to the table? When you're an entry-level student, people are entry-level graduate, nobody is really concerned about that. People are more concerned about, okay, if we hire this person, can we train this person? And will this person be able to do the job? But by the time you are sitting down for a high-level interview, people are not worried about whether we can train this person. People are saying, what kinds of professional development experience and competence, all right, does this person have? And how will this change the game within this organization? All right, so that's what it's all about. It's structured, it's about competence, it's about behavior, it's about performance, and then lastly, it's about, does this person fit with us? If we put this person and we ask if we employ this person and he sits at the table or she sits at the table, does this person fit in with us? Are they is this person part of our culture? These are the kinds of things, the kinds of discussions that, are going, the kinds of thoughts that are going on behind an interviewer's mind when we are recruiting for high-level positions. Okay, so that is it. That is it. So I'm just going to explain some of the things that I just talked about. Competence. What is the high-level interviewer looking for? We're looking for capacity versus just experience. So if you come to me and you tell me that you spent 20 years in finance, that's good. That's fantastic. But you know what? I'm not just interested in your experience. I'm interested in your capacity. And I'll give you an example. Very often I interview, I always say this when I do these sessions. Very often I interview CFOs. And then we have people who come and tell us, we say, okay, we want somebody who's about 15 years, who's had about 15 years experience. And we're trying to fill in the role of CFO, all right? And then the person comes, and then before you know it, instead of telling me I'm a chief finance officer, that person spends his or her time telling me I'm an accountant. So you know what? You spent 20 years in a finance-related job, but you don't have the capacity to be a CFO. So of course, we strike you off the list because we're not just looking for an accountant when we're looking for a CFO, we're looking for a financial strategist, someone who understands the entire finance value chain. All right. We're looking at qualifications. We're looking at expertise. We're looking at technology, your technological prowess, all right? Because the world has gone digital. We're not in an analog anymore. So if you are an analog career professional running after technological high-level jobs, you're going to, fail at that job, quite fast, all right? Now, we're also looking for certain types of behavior. there are certain types of behaviors that a high-level candidate must display. I put some of them on the board. Are you a team player? Can you handle responsibility? Do you have excellent communication skills? Can you take decisions? Are you a leader? Can you solve problems? Are you agile? Are you adaptable? All right? Are you goal-oriented? Are you somebody who will be engaged? You know what, a situation where we employ somebody today and then tomorrow that person is going to come and say 1 month or 2 months afterwards that, you know what, I'm bored, this job doesn't interest me anymore, I don't want this job anymore, I'm leaving. So we're looking at all of these things. We're looking at people who can resolve conflicts, who can manage conflicts. We're looking at people who can handle both upward and downward influence. Can you manage the people under you? And can you manage the people that are above you? All right, we're looking at performance orientation. I was working with a wonderful person, and I can see that she's in this meeting. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been working 2-3 weeks. I think we were working with each other on her CV. And one of the things I could tell from just working with this person, when I saw her CV, first of all, it was one of those long CVs. We had to cut it out. And then the other thing I told her was this: you are not displaying your performance by showing your level of, you're not displaying your competence by displaying your level of performance. I know her personally at a personal level, all right? So it was easy for me to challenge her. I know the kind of portfolio she's handling. She's handling meats. She's not just handling local naira. She handles foreign exchange. She handles like 3 portfolios within her office. And she doesn't handle, we're not talking about $10,000. She handles 9 figures, all right? The weight of responsibility on her is so much, but I didn't see it in her CV. And I said to her, look, you know what? This CV is not telling your story, all right? And that is what we want to see. People want to see, they ask you questions like, what kind of volumes have you handled? How many people have you managed in your lifetime? All right? What kind of projects have you handled? And people want to know what the value of those projects are. So that's what we're talking about. We're looking at performance orientation. That's why I talked about this in the last session that we did. We were talking about, what do you call this thing? Task-based CVs. CVs that people write and they'll be saying, manage this, did that. People are not interested in that. We know you managed. What type of management was it? How much did you manage? How much did you sink your teeth into? So these are the kinds of things that people are looking for at a high-level interview. We're also looking for, like I said earlier on, person fit. Can you fit into the culture? Do you come from the right background? Because there's some organizations that are looking for people from certain types of backgrounds. I was listening to an interview the other day, and the person who was talking with a particular kind of accent. They had the CEO of a particular organization, and then they brought somebody else to that organization. That person too had a particular type of organization, accent. And then a third person came, and then that one too had, I said, look, it means that if you want to work in this organization and you don't come from and you haven't done some foreign degrees or worked in some foreign related organization, you can't enter that organization. But it's part of it. Background fits. Are you the right strategic fit? Do you fit into the locational requirements? I was talking to somebody in one of my communities the other day. He was telling us about how he had just got a job. And he was saying to us, this job is different. So we work fully remote. Nobody works in the office. All right. So location is even changing. Gone are the days when we just used to ask, will you work in Abuja? Will you work in Kaduna? Will you work in Lagos? Will you work in Port Harcourt? People are now asking the questions. Will you work remotely? Can you adapt a hybrid lifestyle? Okay, so are you ready to work some days in the office and some days from home? All right. We're looking for people who are motivated, because right now, organizations don't have time. We're not looking to motivate people. We want people who land highly charged. They are ready to go as soon as they start. All right. So these are all the things. You're looking for person fit. You are looking for, these are the new things that are coming up in HR now. People who are citizens of the organization. People who are committed to the organization. They will fight for the organization. They're ready to go to war for the organization. All right. So these are the kinds of things that people are looking for, recruiters are looking for when they're talking about the high level interview skill. So I just want you to make a note to yourself. And the note is this: your inability to display and articulate your competence will mar your chances of acing a high level interview. Don't take it for granted. I've failed some high-level interviews. I've done well at some, and I've failed some. And every time I've failed, when I go back and I take a look at it and I ask myself, Emma, what happened? You know, because I'm one person who just believes, Emma, don't make excuses. Go back, analyze, sit down, ask yourself what went wrong so that you can correct yourself and you won't make that mistake the second time. Okay? Every time I failed a high level interview, it's because I didn't prepare for it. All right? I didn't prepare for it. I was unable to articulate my competence, and that messed up my chances for acing, getting that job or getting that position. All right? So you've got to be very careful about that. I've gone to some interviews. All right? And in the middle of the interview, the chairman puts down my CV and says, I can't interview you anymore. You're too overqualified for this job. My dear, let's just chat. I've gone for interviews like that started structured. And then, you know what? The chairman looked at the CV and said, you know what? I don't even know why we even decided. We should have just called you for lunch and then we talk over this position and what this position is all about. So I want you now to understand some of the blockers. What are the blockers? What are the things that will make this happen? Because I've seen many people fail. In fact, if we interview 10 people, sometimes only 2 or 3 will make it. What are the things that make people fail? That's what I want you to look at today. But I don't want you to only look at that. We're going to move beyond that. I'm going to show you what makes you fail, and then I'm going to show you how to overcome those things, all right? How to remove those blockers, those stumbling blocks, okay? I want to show you how to be a mean interviewing machine so that at the end of the day, when you come before a recruiter, nobody can stop you, all right? Nobody can stop you, all right? So this is it. This is the high-level interview skill, all right? This is what we're going to learn today. Now, what must we be aware of? What are the blockers we've got to be aware of? There's some things that we have to be aware of. Number one, if you don't understand the job description and the required profile for the role, you're not going to be able to interview for that job. And I love it when I'm working on a recruitment campaign and I reach out to a potential candidate. The candidate says to me, the first thing the candidate says to me is, Emma, can I see the job description? I don't want us to go any further until I see the job description. I love those kinds of people because already it tells me this person knows where they're going for. So you can't interview for a role when you don't understand the job description and the required profile for that role. So that's where first of all, it starts from first of all. Next, one of the major blockers is your inability to analyze the context in which the job role is located. There are different, as I said earlier on, you can be CFO in a manufacturing company. You can be CFO in a technology company. You can be CFO in a real estate company. You can be the head of HR, all right? In a medical, in a large hospital, okay? You can be the CFO in a government organization. Context moderates everything. The way a CFO performs in a manufacturing company or an oil and gas company, all right, it's a different set of skills. The way the head of HR would perform, I was practicing with a good friend of mine the other day who was going for a high-level HR role, and it was in the oil and gas industry. And I'm very familiar with HR, but some of the things that she was discussing, I've interviewed a number of HR people. I said, no, it's not everybody who will be able to go for this role because there are some things that you need to know, as the head of HR in an oil and gas company, all right? So that came out very, 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 very much in the practice session we were doing together. All right, now, a poor understanding, we see this a lot, a poor understanding of interview types and methods. People don't know about interview types and methods. There are different types of interviews. I have a mentee right now who is preparing for an interview with a major international consulting company. What she is going through to prepare for that interview, I'm like, what? This is what you have to get. She has had to go through so many things, all right? And she is going through so many things to prepare for that interview. All right, so a poor understanding, you have to familiarize yourself with as many interview techniques as possible. If Amisha was telling me about some of these interviews she was going through, I said, you know what, to be able to help you to prep very well for this interview, I'm going to have to do some studies on this particular interview that you have taken. And I said to her, look, I remember one of my friends who did this interview, and I'm going to call her, one of my friends who lives abroad, I'm going to call her and we're going to have a chat about this interview. So there are different types of interviews, and the context will determine the type of interview it is that you're going to have to do. An inability to pitch for the job. Oh my God, I've seen this happen so many times. I remember there was an interview that we did once. I think what were we interviewing for? Was it the head of customer service or something like that? And we brought in this guy, fantastic guy. I worked with this guy before. That was why I personally chose him to come for this interview. He flew all the way from Lagos to another part of the country to do this interview. He got there and he couldn't talk. He just froze. He couldn't pitch. He couldn't say anything. All right. So you've also got to overcome that a stumbling block. And it happens to the best of us. An inability to pitch correctly for the job. So I'm going to give you some tips on that too as well. And then your inability to communicate, that's related. I've fused the two of them together to pitching. All right. And then there is that problem with negotiating. I don't know what is the problem with us. Why we can't. I just don't know what happens when it comes to money. People freeze. They ask you how much you want and you can't say how much you want. This is high level, oh. When it comes to high level, the figures change. The zeros after the salary extend. All right, they extend. Sometimes, I mean, I've seen one of my friends' high-level paychecks for one of the major finance institutions in this country. She showed me, I was asking her, I said, give me the pay for this grade. She said, okay, first of all, I will show you my own salary, which is different from every other person on my grade. And we're going to talk about that. By the time I saw her salary, I almost passed out. It was 9 figures. 9 figures. High level. Remember that. The zeros extend. All right. And then after that, she said, okay, when it comes to people, other people who are not as, highly priced as me, they now drop to 8 figures, or 7 figures. So this is what you must keep in mind. All right. So a lot of people cannot negotiate. I did the same person I was practicing with the other day. I threw that question at her. I said, how much do you want to earn? She gave me some, she just gave me some very careless. I said, don't try that. Oh, this is it. When it comes to money, you don't play games. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that too as well. And then of course, poor Q&A skills. We can't ask questions, we can't answer them. All right, so this is something that you're also going to have to develop if you want to learn how to develop exceptional high level interview skills. And then of course, handling the follow-up discussions. I can't do everything in this thing. Ima, are you still there? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, okay? If I notice that people are putting up their hands, I will ask you to say what it is that you want to say, all right? And you can go ahead and ask your questions. All right, Folakemi asks, all right, Folakemi, no problem. That's not an issue. I'll tell you how you can contact me afterwards. Sahid says, what about some generic roles such as the managing director, CEO? Is it safe to assume the JD is about responsibility for PL and business growth? Sahid, the JD is, when you're talking about managing director, it's a lot more than that, okay? Maybe we'll have a different session for JDs, okay? I'm just going to talk a little bit about JDs now, all right? And then maybe during the open mic, if there's time, we'll address that question that you asked, okay? All right, so I'm going to give you 6 helpful tips that will help you to prepare for a high-level interview. 6 helpful tips. The first is familiarize yourself with the job description and person fit specification, and I will talk about that in detail as we go along. Study the context. Understand the context, the practices, the culture, the environment, the industry, the register, the language of the industry, what people expect you, how do people expect you to talk within that industry, all right? Where is the job situated? What are the kinds of people? What is the preferred profile? What are the kinds of people that people look for, all right, within that context? Study the context, very important. Understand the different interview approaches. There are about 15 or 16 different interview approaches, and those are even the ones that I researched. There are probably even more. We can't talk about all of them. I've picked one, all right, that is very popular, all right, that we can look at, that we will look at during this session. Practice. I told you I was practicing with somebody on over the weekend. Practice. And she texted WhatsApp me the other day and said, Emma, that session was useful. It was very, very useful. The interview went very well. It surprises me that a lot of people go into interviews without practicing. You've got to practice. You find somebody you can practice on your own, and then find a coach that you can practice with, who can practice with you, give you feedback, or ask one of your mentors, all right, who has had a similar experience. Zain Verji talks about how Femi Ope of CNN, all right, who is now with Al Jazeera, helped her, how she was so intrinsic to helping her get the CNN job, all right? She practiced with her, she coached her, she helped her through so many things. You cannot go in for a high-level interview without practicing, all right? Learn how to handle negotiations. You've got to learn money. Look, money, I'm a Christian, and the Bible says something about, not loving money, but the Bible also says something about money answering all things. And I'm sure that when we look at our other faiths, the Quran, all those other religions, you will find that there's something about money there. All right, you need money to pay your bills. You need money to do so many things. So why is it that when it comes to the time to talk about money, people mess about with that issue of money? People don't know what to ask for. They're coy about money. They don't know how much they're worth. You can't play with money. So you've got to learn how to handle those negotiations. And then there's some other negotiations that you also have to, apart from money, that you also have to learn how to handle. So you must, look, let me tell you the honest to goodness truth. When we're sitting on this side of the table and we're recruiting people, we're looking for how to get the best talent cheap. Let me be very, very honest with you. That is the honest to goodness truth. All right. So sometimes when I'm talking with people, with clients, I ask them, I say, what's the pay range? They will give me a pay range. They'll tell me 15 to 20 million. Or they'll say 20 to 30. And I say, okay, maybe Emma, we can push it up to 35 if we get a very good candidate. So what does that mean? It means that if you do not pitch yourself properly, if you don't prepare properly, what's going to happen? You're going to end up with what? The 25 million. You're not going to get the 35 million. All right? There are cases that I've seen where the client has even had to rebase the salary because the salary they want to pay is not enough for the candidate that they want to get. But in such cases, the candidate has displayed so much value. The client wants that person, and the client says to himself, you know what, I'm ready to go higher. But people don't know how to handle these negotiations. Do you know that there are even negotiations that cover car? What type of car do you want? There are negotiations that go into, I want 2 business class tickets, one for me, one for my wife. There are negotiations that cover that. There are negotiations that go into what type of options, what type of stocks. Do you have options for stock? So how much are you going to give me? $250,000? How long do we vest for? You must learn to handle these types of negotiations. And then you must also learn to question and answer. You must learn how to handle that Q&A. What are the kinds of questions you want to ask them? And what kinds of other questions, apart from the competence behavioral-based questions, do you think that they're going to answer? All right, so let's look at some of these very, very quickly. All right, I can't take everything, but I'll just touch on a few things, and I hope I'll be able to cover everything within the time. If not, we'll do this some other time. All right, so you have got to understand the job description and map yourself to that job description. Until you do that, don't go for any interview. I remember that there was an interview that I conducted for somebody the other day. I invited somebody to come and take part in an interview. He got the job description. And then after looking at the job description, he called me back and he said, I don't want to interview for this role. And I said, why? He said, after looking at the role, I think it even had something to do with, he didn't feel that he would be substantially motivated by the role. I can't remember what it was anyway. But he then said he did not want to interview for the role. I've gotten callbacks from people who have said to me, Emma, I've looked at this job description. You know what? I do not think that my profile suits this job description. I won't do well on this job description. So you know what? I don't think that I should interview for this role. All right. So what is a job description? It is a document. It specifies a role within an organization, the tasks and the responsibilities. So you've got to pay attention to that. What are the tasks they want you to carry out? What are the responsibilities they want you to manage? All right. That are meant to be carried out by that role. Now, job descriptions usually contain the person fit, the person who is I get so amused sometimes because on LinkedIn, sometimes, or other avenues, I put out job adverts and I say I'm looking for this particular type of person. So let me give you an example. I'm looking for, say, I'll use the CFO again because this has happened so many times. I'm looking for a CFO and somebody who does not have any CFO qualifications, no finance qualifications, nothing at all to do with finance, will write to me and say, Emma, I'm interested in the job. You advertised for a CFO and I want to pitch for the job. All right. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, did you read the job description? Because obviously, if you had read the job description, you would know that there is nothing in your profile that makes you suitable for this job. So you have really got to look at that job description, first of all, map yourself onto that job description and prepare with that job description in mind. All right. So that's really what a job description is all about. All right. Now, when we're looking at job descriptions, what are we basic? What should you be looking at? Look at what the role specifies. How is the role described? What are the tasks? What are the person's fit specifications? What is the location? Because there is no point. If the job says that you're supposed to come and work in Kano, or you're supposed to come and work in Lagos and you are living in Kaduna, or you are living in Imo State and you don't want to work in any of those areas that I've mentioned, it is useless for you to pitch for that job. All right. So that is the first mute on that particular matter. All right. So these are the kinds of things that you should be asking yourself when you are looking at the job description. Roles and tasks. What is the role and does it align with my profile? What are the specific tasks? There are so many tasks. If you are called for the CEO role, somebody just put that in the chat right now. There are so many responsibilities. The COO has many responsibilities. If you are a COO, you have to be a CFO. You have to be the chief marketing person. You have to also have operational skills. You have to have HR skills. All right. And that is why most people, when they interview for somebody who they want to be in a CEO role, they will say to you, you know what, we prefer somebody who has an MBA, because an MBA gives you a 360-degree view of the entire organization. All right. So you must look at it. Are you familiar with the tasks? Have you performed them before? We interviewed somebody the other day. Again, I think it was for finance. At the end of the day, when my assessors were looking at it, they said, look, this guy has all the qualifications on paper, but you know what? He's not familiar with a lot of the things that a CFO is supposed to do because he doesn't have the experience. He's been working in another area of finance. And then they compared him to another person that they chose who eventually got the job. And they said, you know, this guy has been eating, drinking. He has been doing everything finance all his life. Look at how many years he has spent as a CFO. So at the end of the day, he was the one that got the job. All right. So what level? How much have you done? So there's a difference between a CFO who has managed a 50 million naira balance sheet and one who has managed a 50 billion naira balance sheet or a 1 trillion naira balance sheet. The difference is what, Claire? All right. So we need to ask, to what level? How, they talk about buga or raising your, what's your buga? How much capacity, what's your strength? That's what people want to hear about. People want to hear that you've handled projects of 1 billion, you've handled projects of 20 billion, and this is what happened. These were the challenges. When I started the project, this was what happened. This is what we encountered on the way. These are the kinds of people that interviewers want to see at a high-level interview. All right, so now looking at person fit specifications. You're looking at the technical competencies. You're looking at the behavioral competencies. You're looking at the culture and every single moment, with every single question, you're answering honestly. And you're saying, you know what, this is me or this is not me. The other day I sent a role. I wasn't the one who was recruiting, but I just saw it. And there's a friend of mine that I know who has this background. So I sent it to her and I said, I think you should apply for this role. When she saw it, she was like, wow, Emma, it's like as if they thought of me, they dreamt of me when they designed this role. This is me. So she said, I'm going to apply right now. So I'm going to follow up with her to find out how far that particular discussion has gone. So you're looking at three areas: the technical, the behavioral, the culture. We've talked about that, but I'll just expand a little bit more. What are the technical skills required for the role? There are some certain roles. Don't bother to apply if you do not have certain qualifications. Don't bother to apply. All right? Because if you apply, you're just going to be wasting everybody's time. You're going for a medical role. You're not a doctor. You're going to a CMD, Chief Medical Director. You don't have a medical degree. Why are you wasting everybody's time? It's a waste of time. You can't do the job. You're going for CFO. You don't have at least ACCA or ACA in the bag. All right? You don't have any of these things, and then you're going for the job. You're wasting everybody's time. You don't have the technical skills or the technical competence for the job. So you need to ask yourself that question. Do I have the technical? Because the reason why you have to do this is that at the end of the day, you are going to face these questions. You are going to face technical questions. If you don't have the capacity, how are you going to answer the questions? All right? You're also going to ask yourself, do I have the required behavioral skills? Am I a team player? Because they're going to throw questions at you that will ask you whether you are, that will determine whether you are a team player or not. All right? So do you have them? What is the evidence? So we want people to show us. So if you say, are you a good team player? We don't want you to just come back to us and tell us, yes, I'm a good team player. We want you to give us evidence. What is the evidence that shows us? So you should be able to go into your experience, your past experience, and tell us about a time when you showed that you were a team player in the context of the past or previous responsibility you handled. And then be honest with yourself. What are your behavioral weaknesses and strengths? The other day I was sitting down to write my behavioral weaknesses and strengths, and I was like, Emma, you have to do, it's so funny. Monica and I were talking about something the other day. She goes, you don't have any problems because I let my you must have 360 degree. The most important form of 360 that you're going to get, feedback that you're going to get is from your subordinates. All right, so you must have that free, open door policy that allows your subordinates to talk to you. All right. And she said to me, you know what? You don't have any problem in this area. You don't have any problem in that area. I laughed. She said, you don't have any problem. But this one, this specific area is bad. You understand what I'm saying? And I laughed. But what she didn't know was that I took notes. Okay? I took notes of that fact that, you know what? Hey, this particular area is a problem. Everybody knows that is a problem. So you know what? I'm going to have to be very careful about this specific area. All right, so culture. What is the culture of the organization? I talked about that already, but something else I want to talk about. What are their values? And what are your values? Do they meet? Because if they don't, you're going to have problems during the interview. Cultures, organizations have their value. I was at a meeting the other day and somebody was talking about the fact that when he was working in a particular organization, they were trying to get him to fix the books as an HR manager, and he didn't want to fix the books. So you know what? He said he sensed that there was a divergence between him and his other colleagues, and at the end of the day, he had to move. So it's important, find out the values, because if your value systems and the value systems of the organization do not meet, you're going to fail the interview. There's no doubt about that. All right? Another question you need to ask yourself is, are you prepared? Does your background prepare you for that organization? All right? So let me move on. Another thing that I want you to do that can help you where this job description thing is concerned, I can't say enough about it, is this. Get the competency framework. Become familiar. All right? A lot of associations and organizations have what is called competency frameworks, where they have mapped the skills. There's not enough time to sit down now. I'll send you the slides and you can read that on your own. But it's important for you to know that there are competencies for every role. And a lot of these high-level structured organizations have this competency framework. So get a hold, and it is this competency framework they use to develop the job description. They use this to say, you know what, these are the kinds of competencies that the person who is going to do this job must have. And it's spelled out. Get a hold of it. If you can't get the one that the organization has, one of the things that I would like to say to you is that a lot of these organizations take their competency frameworks from associations. So tap into the main association for your career. For instance, if you're in HR, look at what CIPM has, look at what SHRIM has, and get the competency framework for it. Study the competencies and determine whether you have those competencies and whether you'll be able to pass the questions that will be asked based on those questions. So, for example, I got this from my community group the other day. Somebody shared the SHRIM competency framework for HR managers, all right? This is a competency framework for accountants. You can get this from the one of the accounting associations, all right? It will show you this is what we're looking for when we're talking about hiring an accountant. All right. These are some competency frameworks. Another thing that you should do is you should ask yourself, are you ready to work in that location? Are you ready to work in the designated location? I've talked about this already, so I won't harp on this too much. All right. Understand the context. Make sure you understand the context in which that high-level interview will take place. I've said this earlier, when it is structured, when it's a structured organization like a Mobile or somewhere like that, the interview will be structured on KPMG or Deloitte. The interview will be highly structured and planned. When it is unstructured, you're being invited probably to take part in, to become part of a new startup or high growth startup. Usually interviews like that, sometimes, I'm not saying it's all the time, sometimes they end up being unstructured. I remember I was being considered for a chief operating role for an investment company that was being run by a set of high growth investors. And they called me to this discussion, and it wasn't an interview. What happened was they told me, meet me at so hotel. We met at the hotel, the partners came, we sat by the pool, and we just had an informal chat. And on the basis of that, they offered me the job. I didn't take it in the end, but I just wanted to know that some of this, and it was for chief operating role, all right, across the West African sub-region, all right? It's very unstructured. We just sat by the pool. They asked me, in fact, it wasn't even an interview. What happened was that the CEO or the chairman of the organization started telling me his vision, asking me if I aligned with that vision, if I was okay with the vision. So I just want you to know that sometimes you could have interviews like that. All right, now let's move quickly to understanding the types of interviews. Types of interviews. Before I continue, I want to ask a question. How many types of interviews do you know? How many types of interviews do you know? I'd like to see in the comment section, or I will just unmute the mics because I've muted the mics. We started having noise all over again. So I will just unmute your mics. And you can unmute and talk if you want to, or you can put it in the chat room. Would love to hear your voices. I don't want to be the only one talking. All right. Mercy talked about a virtual interview. Thank you. Chisholm has said she's done structured and unstructured. Mercy also says one-on-one. Priscilla says competence-based interviews. Fantastic. Anyone else? Anyone else? What are the types of interviews that you've
panel
done?
interviews from
Alakamu says structured. Who is that? Who is speaking?
Chukwemeka,
hi, how are you? How are you doing?
Very
How's
well,
everything with you? All right.
I enjoyed the session.
What?
Yeah. Panel interview, teleconference.
Panel interviews. Okay, fantastic. Anyone else out there? Anyone else out there? Fantastic. Bukola says technical. Deborah says
assessment centers.
Michael says
assessment centers.
Florence says formal. Grace says realistic job interviews. That's interesting. That's the first time I've heard about that. I would like to hear more about that. Grace, can you tell us what a realistic job interview is? Mabel says panel interview. All right. Somebody else says a group interview. Florence says informal. Ogidibo says one-on-one. All right.
Terminal complaints I am.
Okay, yeah. Fantastic. All right. So it's excellent that we know all of these things, the types of interviews, and the different interview stages. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the competence-based interviews later on, but I also want you to know about the different stages that you go through, because a lot of the time people are not ready for those stages too either. All right, so usually in structured organizations, you have different stages of the interview, even in unstructured organizations. All right, but you will see this a lot in structured organizations. You will have the pre-interview. All right. You will have a possible technical or behavioral assessment, all right? And then you will have, and that's really where they're testing your competencies. And then you will have the organizational interview. So what they're saying is this: we're satisfied that you have the competence to do this job. Now we want you to meet with the executive management team of the organization or with other team members of the organization that you're going to work with. And then you will go for what is called the organizational interview. And then you have what is called the CEO or partners interview. Sometimes it takes place, sometimes it doesn't take place, but sometimes it stops at the level of the executive management interview. And then you sometimes have what is called an offer and onboarding discussion. All right, so it is important for you to know the stages of these interviews and the different things that happen at these different stages. All right, You also have to know the difference between a virtual and a physical interview. The other day I was prepping somebody for an interview. We were talking, I said, where is the interview going to be? She said it was going to be virtual. I said to her, well, you have to take into consideration different things if you're going into a virtual interview, how your background looks, how the lighting looks, how your eyes come across, how different things come across about you, how you look visually, all right? So that is it with a virtual interview. The same thing with the physical interview. You've got to also understand and learn how to manage interviews within a physical environment. And then you have one-on-one versus panel interviews. It was interesting that Chukwemeka talked about going for a panel interview. He said, you know what? I went for a panel interview. I have found in my experience that panel interviews, they are very different from one-on-one interviews. When you've got to talk to a multiplicity of people, it's very different from when you talk to somebody, one person alone, when you're talking to one person alone. So you've got to learn all these skills. And you've also got to understand that sometimes when we're talking about different stages, you could have different of interviews. You could have a virtual interview, you could have a physical interview, and then you could have a one-to-one interview, or you could have a panel interview. So you must be ready for these different types of interview structures, okay? You must be ready for the business case interview, all right? There's someone I know now who is going through the case interview. It's very interesting. When I looked at all the responses that were coming in through the chat, I didn't see anyone there. Most of the people there, nobody really said case interview. People were talking about competency-based. Star came up too as well. Then there's the situational interview, there's the traditional interview, but there's also the business case interview. That is the kind of interview that you will face if you're going to interview with somebody like a McKinsey or Bain or BCG or organizations like that. All right, you will have to go through what is known as the business case interview. What happens in the business case interview? They give you a case, and it is on the basis of that you must solve that case and tell them what your thoughts are about that case. All right, so you must. And the person that I know that is going through this right now, she says, Emma, I have to download like 50 cases and study different cases because they can throw different cases at you and you wouldn't know where the case is going to come from. All right. And then, like I said earlier on, you've got to understand how to have a meeting, a lunch, dinner, an informal meeting when you're just having drinks. All right. And you're being interviewed during this type of event. All right. So these are the interviews. Be familiar with them. Most organizations do not use the traditional interview type, so please do not it's easy. What is your name? Tell us your experience. That's the traditional interview type. Most structured organizations don't use those kinds of interview types, so don't. Get ready. Don't be bothered with that. Get ready for the competency-based interview. You can see, as most people are saying, most of the, I said in the chat, we did competency-based. We did the behavioral interview. We did the situational interview. If you're going for an interview with a consulting company, get ready for the case interview. If you don't understand the case interview, don't bother. You are failed already, all right? Because that is the system of interviewing within the consulting sector. Ojiro, you wanted to, I don't know whether I pronounced your name properly. Please forgive me for that. All right. Chinendu says, I have gone through a business case interview and an interview on PowerPoint. Yes, the PowerPoint presentation. That one is essential. There are some organizations that do a lot of PowerPoint presentations and they want to know that you can make a PowerPoint presentation. I have done those interviews before. I usually even do them at entry level. When I'm taking in entry level people, I sometimes put people through that. Can you make a PowerPoint presentation? If you have to make a 2-minute elevator pitch, can you do it? All right. All right, so we have some people raising their hands. I'm going to stop. We can't do that. We'll have to do that at some other time, okay? I was actually going to give you some competency-based interview questions, all right? To tell you that, look, this is what it's all about. People ask you questions. They will say to you, for instance, if they want to test your competency as a marketing person, they want to find out, give us an example where you had to go and pitch for a high-level sale. All right. And then you would have to answer that question and say, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is how much, these are the skills that I deployed. This is what I used. All right. But because of time, I have to skip that. All right. Now, prepare your pitch ahead. Make sure you prepare your pitch by using the follow. So what am I saying? You must be prepared. Don't go into an interview without preparation. You must prepare ahead. All right. And this is what I tell people, develop your own questions. The other day when I was practicing with someone, she said, oh, I have this interview. I need to get ready for it. I said, okay, come, I will interview. We'll do a virtual interview. I opened my laptop. I have a basket of questions there for different roles. So I said to her, you know what? Let's practice using these questions. So after I finished, she said, my God, where are these questions? So I said, no, they are my own, all right? I don't just give them out like that, all right? They're my questions, they're in my laptop computer or on the cloud somewhere, all right? So develop your own questions, develop a series of different questions, and then don't just develop the questions, answer them, list your answers. If you were in this situation, what type of answer will you give? What are the things that you will say that you will know that will get you this job, all right? Practice your pitch, okay? Get somebody to practice with. All right, and practice that pitch. All right, somebody acts as the interviewer, you are the person who is being interviewed. Practice your pitch. What would you say? Different question, have different questions thrown at you, answer them. I remember, okay, well, this is not related to a job interview, this is related, but it's the same thing. It's, when I was being interviewed for the British Student Scholarship, I practiced. And any of my colleagues who are my fellow children as well on this call would tell you we practice before we don't just walk we don't want to walk into an ambush, for goodness sake. So you practice, and every time you're practicing and you fail at something, you ask yourself, why am I failing? What do I need to do to improve at this? All right, so you must practice your pitch. All right, now can't do this, so I'm going to have to skip this. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe I'll have a special session on this later on. All right, what I wanted to talk about was the fact that I wanted to show people that one of the major problems that you have when you're pitching is communication. Let me tell you something. The major problem is this: English is our second language, or we're forced to do business in this country in English. Okay, so you go for an interview. The interview is not going to be in Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa. It generally is not going to be. It is going to be in what? English. And for many of us, English is a second or even third language. And sometimes it's difficult, all right, you have the idea in your head, you know what it is that you want to say, and then when you open your mouth and you want to speak, it's difficult to bring those answers out because you haven't practiced your communication skills. Now, sometimes it's because you struggle with English. Sometimes it's just because you struggle to put your thoughts together. Sometimes you might be an excellent communicator, but an excellent English speaker. But the problem may be, remember I told you that somebody flew all the way down from Lagos to Abuja and he couldn't pitch. And it wasn't because he couldn't speak English. He just started stammering. He couldn't put his thoughts together. He was confused. So you've got to learn how to speak confidently. Let me tell you something. Something happened to me the other day. I went to to give a tribute, and I was upset. And I'd already practiced what I was going to say. I said, okay, I won't read from anything, from a prepared speech. I will just speak. But when I got to the stage, I was so upset. All right, I was so pained. I wanted to cry. And thankfully, because this is what I do for a living, I carried a backup. I said, Emma, you don't know what's going to happen. You're probably going to break down doing this thing. So you know what? Carry your backup speech. And that was what happened. I had to go into backup because I could not speak. I could not remember what I wanted to say because all I could think of was crying. All right. So it happens in interviews. You get to an interview situation, you've practiced, you've done everything, you are ready, everything is fine. And then they start throwing the questions at you, and then your mind is going in different places. So you also have to learn to subject your mind and make sure that your mind is under control when you're going in for an interview. All right, so another time I'm going to have maybe one of the sessions. We still have 2 more sessions this year, at least 2 more sessions this year. I probably might have a whole session on communication and how to communicate effectively during and then we'll practice. Okay, negotiations. Right, so this is it. People are talking about compensation, pay. How do we negotiate for pay? This is one of the major places people have problems. People don't know how to negotiate for pay. They don't know how to negotiate for the job design. How will the job be done? People don't talk about these issues. So when they get into the office, they are now thrown into the lion's den. They start doing the work and they're like, this is not what I signed up for. You must negotiate all these things at the point of the interview. And you can do that in a high-level interview. Let me tell you another thing about a high-level interview. A high-level interview, people need you. They need those skills. At the interview point, they are willing to give you anything that it is that you want, as long as it's reasonable and they can afford it. So you can ask for different things. You can say, look, this is the way that I want to do my job. 2 days, I want to work from home. All right. The other 3, I will come to the office. This is the autonomy that I want to have. I want to be able to take my decisions, design my strategy, all right, without any interference. I don't want to be micromanaged. People don't talk about these things. You must talk about them, unless you will enter into what I call a one-chance job. All right. And then there's that issue of compensation. How do you manage the discussions about money? All right. When you're talking about money, what are you supposed to talk about? What are you supposed to say? What is it? All right. Now, this is the issue. This is what I found from my experience. People don't understand what pay is all about. What is pay all about? What are the different things that make up pay? All right. So you've got to understand that compensation, there's what you call a total reward system. All right. It's not just your basic pay. There are other things that go into compensation. All right. So you must understand that, first of all, that when you go for an interview, you're not just going for the interview with that thing of, I only want basic pay. And let them pay me, 1 million a month, 3 million a month. You're also looking at the other aspects of the other benefits in the compensation package. All right. That is what you are going after too as well. You want to understand the pay structure. Dr. Ibrahim, I hope you are still there. You want to understand the pay structure, all right? That is the pay you will earn for the role that you are going to do. And the information is out there. Sometimes people ask me to go and get information about pay. And you will be surprised how much you can find out about money when you ask the question. All right, there are various places you can get information from. They are out there, and all you have to do is just put in the information, and you will find out what is happening. First of all, you can ask someone who is in the industry. I must warn you about that. Usually, people do not want you. They don't want you to know what they're earning, so sometimes they will not tell you. Sometimes people will tell you. Then there are websites. Glassdoor is there. There's a website called Glassdoor. There are other websites like that where people drop information about pay. Do you take time to look at those websites before you go for an interview? You will see it there. They will talk about the pay. They will even talk about the working conditions. If you're going to, they will tell you about the interview the kinds of interviews you're going to do in that particular kind of organization. So you can find out information. You might not be able to find out the exact pay, but you will find the range. And one of the things that I always tell people is this: don't go for an interview without knowing what the pay is going to be. You should know. I will make calls. I call different people. I say, look, I'm going, I have friends in places. So I ask them, how much? And they will tell me. Sometimes they call me and say, do you know how much I should pay this person for this? All right. My other laptop is misbehaving, but we'll ignore it. All right, so you've got to know these things. You can't. It's like look. This thing is like we are sitting there with the information. All right, we know the information. We know how much the pay is. We know how much is at stake. We are the ones who have the information. We know how much is at stake, and we also know that a lot of people come into organizations and they don't know. They come in for interviews to organizations, and look, who doesn't want to slice off 3 or 4 million from their pay, what you call this, their wage bill. All right. So if you're going to settle for 3 or 4 million less, I'm not going to, I won't mind. I won't mind as the CEO. So you've got to also understand that. All right. So you've got to understand the pay structure, and then you've got to understand pay form. How is pay distributed in the organization? How much is in the basic pay? How much goes into bonuses? How much goes into this? What are the perks? All right. And then you also have to understand variability. There is something that is called variability. I remember years ago, I went to interview in an organization, and I interviewed with a friend of mine. He got the job, I got the job. When we now looked at our salary, what did we find out? That I got more than him. All right. So even in organizations, there's what you call variable pay. Some people earn more than others, even though they're on the same level. All right. So you have to get the intelligence. It is important. All right. You study to show you to be ready for anything that it is that you are going in for. You just don't go into that thing like that. All right. And then you understand the pay level. Okay. So this is another thing that you must understand. What is the pay level? There are different levels. Okay. So one bank may have a different pay level from another bank. This is the same thing in the telecommunications industry, development sector, whatever sector it is that you're going to interview for. All right. So there are pay levels. So you might be going for CFO in XYZ Bank, and you will find that the pay is slightly less or more than ABC Bank. And then you might be going for CMO, CHRO, all right, in one organization. Maybe you are pitching for a development sector role. You might find that the pay is different. If you're going for an oil and gas store, you must also understand pay levels. Because if you're coming from one sector where the pay is not so good, and you're going to another sector where the pay is higher, you might miss it and take your understanding of the pay level for that sector that you were in before. And who cares if you want 20 million when we want to give you 30? We're going to pay you the 20 million. You've just made our wage bill a lot cheaper. All right. So, a lot less than we would have it. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind. All right. You also have to understand, as I said, you identify your basic pay, your allowances. Do they pay bonuses? You must ask that question. Somebody asked me that the other question, that please go and ask them before I come to their organization, because this is the bonus that they're giving me in my organization. Do they pay bonuses in their organization? Do they do the regulatory payments? Because some organizations don't do it, especially the, what do you call these organizations, the ones who, the unstructured organizations. A lot of them don't pay they don't do their regulatory commitments. So you, at the end of it, you have worked 10 years, and you now say, give me my pension. And then they may now tell you that, sorry, we didn't make any pension payments. We took it from your account, but we never remitted it to the PFA. All right, so you've got to check all those things. Are they, Dr. Ibrahim, don't worry, I'll be with you in a second. All right, because I know this is close to your heart. All right, so these are the things that you want to know. Then I have a period where we're just going to talk questions and answers. All right, so options. Do they give options? Do they give shares? There was one project I worked on with one of my career professionals. All right, I worked with, got a massive high level role like this at one very, very structured, high growth company. They had structured themselves. He got everything. He got a car. He got an amazing salary. He got options. He got shares to vest in. I think it was for like 5 years. He got everything because they loved him and they wanted him. Okay, and they keep on upgrading him in that organization. So these are questions you should ask. That do you have an employee option scheme, and am I entitled to it? I should be entitled to it at this level. Then perks. What are the perks? What status card will I get? Do I get holiday travel tickets? All right, some organizations do this, especially when you're pitching for C-level roles and things like that. They will include these kinds of perks. Club membership. What is the type of club membership that I'm going to get? All sorts of perks. Ask these questions, all right, and negotiate them. Commissions. That's what you call pay for performance. I know this is my basic. I know these are the bonuses that I'm going to get. You've given me options, you've given me perks, but you know what? What if I hit a deal or I help the organization save lots of money? Are you going to pay me a commission on that? There are some organizations that are willing to have that kind of negotiation with you. And then you also talk about non-financial incentives. What are the other incentives that you give, to motivate people? You say pay is a motivator, it's an extrinsic motivator, but it is a motivator. Pay will motivate people, whether you like it or not in certain situations, okay? So it is not something that you should play with. Yeah, Dr. Ibrahim, go right ahead. Okay, so remember what I said. Don't go into without asking questions, doing your investigations. Okay, Dr. Ibrahim, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Emma, for the clarifications. Honestly, I was just happy as you were talking. So my question is, you see, in as much as we will try moving forward on asking and making all inquiries about the salary or the range of the proposed salary, for that position. So my question is, sometimes like the current position I'm doing now, when I was invited for interview, I even had to post it on my WhatsApp, on my social media to ask, please, I just asked a question. Do you know anybody working with so organization? And it was all in preparation for me to know more about it. Honestly, I think I had only one response, that somebody even knows someone that works there who gave me some guidance on, I'm not talking about pay now, I'm talking about the general organ. Sometimes when somebody has worked in a place, there's a way he will guide you on maybe.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm already seeing some lacuna in your life that you need to work on, and you need to work on it very quickly. Dr. Ibrahim, at this level, you should have coaches and mentors, all right? And that is the job of the coach or mentor. One of my mentees came to see me yesterday. She said to me, she was telling me about what she's preparing for. I said, oh, I know somebody who's done this. Remember, I said this earlier on, and I need to put you in touch with that person. You need to, it's not just putting you need to be strategic about your life at this moment in your life. All right. So it's not just putting it on WhatsApp and people. You need to have, there are certain people who need to be in your life. This person I'm talking to you about, I'm sure she's listening somewhere quietly in the background. This person, she doesn't make a move without calling me. And I'm even getting to the point now where we're doing reverse mentoring to me. I call her, I say, look, I've done this. Look at it, tell me. because you have to do it. Your mentee cannot be drawing from you alone. You have to become that person's mentee. So, because I know she's entering some places, she's seeing some things, and I also want to learn. All right. So I can't just be teaching you. I also have to learn from you. Who are your mentors? Who are your coaches? Who are your partners? All right. I have a couple of friends. They're high-level women. They're in high-level positions. They're together. Do you understand what I'm saying? When they're moving together. When one moves to this place, the other one will give information to the other. I've moved to this place. So they don't make a move without talking to each other. You understand? And they're moving. They're in high-level roles. Do you understand? Who are your partners in progress? All right, this is going now beyond, you want to be a high-level person. These are the things that you have to put in place. Look, you smell the way, your company tells you who you are. So if you want to be with giants, I am moving with dwarfs. You're going to look like a dwarf. I'm sorry to say, even if you are tall.
Yeah, I agree, and I work on it.
And you move with dwarfs, you are going to be a dwarf. So if you know you want to get very high in the developmental sector, you have to be strategic now.
Yeah.
I told you I was considered for some of the questions that are coming in, but I understand we have to ask all these questions. All right. So you've got to understand when it comes to that talk about pay, what is it? People are going to ask you that question. How much do you want to earn? All right. So what have you been earning in the past? How much do you want to earn now? And then they will make you an offer. This is what we are offering. All right. And then you have to understand that when it comes to these negotiations, there are what you call offers and counter offers, offers and counter offers, and that's another thing that people don't understand. So the person offers you, says that I'm going to offer you that other project that I told you I worked on. They offered him money. He came back to me. He said, no, this money is not good enough. I said, how much do you want? He said, this is how much I want. I said, okay, write it down. Tell them exactly how much you want. Tell them how you want the money. He sent the message back to them. They came back to him and they gave him what he wanted. There were some things they did not quite agree to, but what he wanted, because people will take advantage of you if you want them to take advantage. So you must be ready. You must know what it is that you want to earn. And you must also understand what people are willing to pay and pitch in accordance with that pay and be ready. Write it down, make a table, my pay table. So that I remember interviewing somebody for a position the other day, and he just, when I asked him, I said, how much do you want to earn? He just opened his laptop and he started reading from it because he had it ready. Do you have your pay scale ready? Do you have your desired pay ready? And are you ready with the counter offers to handle the different back and forth? Because there will be negotiations. You will say, I want this. The organization will say, okay, I can give you this, but I can't give you this. Are you ready? In fact, this particular person I'm talking about, after they said they couldn't give you this, this, and this, and that, he went back again and he said, okay, you can't give me this, but you know what? If you give me this and you give me that, I'm willing to take the job. All right. So you must be ready. You've got to be ready. Most people are not ready. And as I said, this readiness extends to so many different things. The readiness extends to, you know what? Do you have the people around you to help you to move forward? Are you moving with the people who can give you the information that it is that you need? All right. So you have to, you really have to look at your life and ask yourself all these different questions. All right, a couple of other questions that you need to be able to answer. Gaps in your CV, they're going to ask you this question. What's the reason for the gap? You must be ready with your answer. What were you doing? You see, HR managers or recruiters are not so much interested in the gap as they're interested in what you were doing while you were not working. So people want information about that. What were you doing during that time of the gap? What were your reasons for leaving? All right. Why do HR managers ask that question? They ask you that question because, or panel members or whatever it is, they ask you the question because they want to know, are you somebody who is a high conflict person? Do you have integrity problems? Was there integrity issues? Was that why you left the organization? Do you have a reputational issue? I was working with somebody the other day and she had a major problem. It was not her fault. She was working in an organization where they were abusing things. They were doing all sorts of things. And then she didn't have a coach to teach her, to tell her that, look, if you see this kind of thing, all right, the best thing may be for you to just resign and then document everything to make sure that they don't come after you when you resign. She took up fighting instead. You understand? Fighting for her rights, not punching or anything. She was fighting with her. At the end of the day, she now had to leave the organization. It became a big issue, splashed all over the. So now what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to advise her on is how to, because every organization she's applying to is telling her, are you that person who was fighting in that organization and making noise in that organization? We don't want you. You understand? So I've had to tell her this is now what you must do to get out of that situation. All right. So people are going to ask you these questions. You need to be able to understand how to answer these questions. Reasons for wanting to join the organization. You must be able to give answers to that question. Not enough time. If you're in the full program, I will teach you all these things. How to answer these questions. We will practice them. We will go through it. All right. Personal life. How do you manage your, people want to know a little bit about your personal life because they want to know if that personal life is going to affect the work life, all right? And they also want to know, can you manage work-life balance? These are issues that people want to know about. Hobbies. You will be surprised that sometimes that question about hobbies comes up because there are hobbies that might interest the executive management or the CEO. All of them go and do this hobby together. They go and play golf together. They go and do things together. And they want to find out, do you play golf? Because if you don't play golf, it means that you're going to be an outlier. It means that you might not, they're probably trying to tell you that, you know what, we discuss a lot of our business at the golf course. And if you can't join us at the golf course, then you know what, you can't be a part of us. All right. So those questions will come up and you've got to find out things like that. Okay. You know, I always say to people, when you're doing interviews, you've probably got to go into a stalking situation. What do I mean by that? You've got to find out everything about every member that is going to interview you. Who are the troublesome interviewers? Who are the ones that ask the most difficult questions? Who are the ones that you should be wary of? What are their hobbies? What do they do in their personal time? It's a high-level interview, so you've got to take it a little bit further than the normal traditional interview. All right? Then onboarding questions. I've also noticed people don't answer the questions about onboarding properly. When can you resume? All right, because sometimes, you know, you may not be able to resume for another 2 months. The person wants you in 30 days. How do you sort that out? Okay, so you find some organization saying, if we buy you off, will you come? All right, and then you also have to think. There was somebody who said to me, even if you buy me off, I cannot come because my integrity is at stake. There are some projects I'm handling right now. I have to finish those projects. And it really, really impressed. And they said, you know what? Impressed the interviewers. They said, you know what? We'll wait for you. Okay? So you've got to think about onboarding questions. Sometimes they ask you, can we support you? Because in some organizations, they have what is called a transfer allowance. So if you are moving from, let's say, Abuja to Lagos, they will give you money to transfer from, and it's part of the negotiation. You include it in the negotiation that, you know what, it's going to take me a lot. I have to get a house. I have to get this. I have to do this. I have to put my children in school. These negotiations must be at the back of your mind when you are in a high-level interview. All right. And then some other things that things come up. There's a point in time when that will come when they will say, do you have any questions for us? And then people say no. And I'm like, why no? This is the time when you should have a number of questions that you want to ask people. And I'm just giving you some examples here. You know, culture, what are your value systems? You want to know, you know, what's your performance been like? You know, how well have you guys done? What's your strategy? What is your vision? There's nothing wrong with asking all those questions. What are your expectations of me? You understand what do you expect of me? What are the things that you would like me to do? You want me to do for you? You understand what I'm saying? What if we're going to work with each other? Like, for instance, if you know the person who's going to that you're actually going to work for, you should be able to say, okay, be confident enough to say, you know what, these are the questions that I would like to ask about, you know, how we're going to work together. So this is it in a nutshell. There's a lot. I've skipped a lot, you can tell, because there's just so much to talk about, and you can't talk about it in 2 hours, guys. Honestly speaking, I have these 2-hour sessions. I say, look, I try to give you as much as I possibly can for free of charge within the 2-hour sessions, but I can't. You know, it's just not, you know, I hope I have given you some value, but I can't give you everything in 2 hours. So this is what I tell people. I run a program, okay? And the program consists of, it's a career transformation program. The program consists of the basic program, which is the free program, which you've come to right now. And then it also consists of a premium and an elite program. So I'll just quickly, humor me, stay a little bit for that, and then we will end. We just have like about 5 minutes left. I know we're over time. It was because of all those questions that I had to answer, and I'm happy that I answered those questions. I promise you that after I finish talking about this, I am going to have an open mic session, like I said. And any question that you want to ask, I will stay and I will answer the questions for a few minutes. Okay. All right. So I'll just talk to you about the program. What is it all about? It's a career transformation program. All right. It's a 5-week intensive program. I always say to people, do not get on this program if you are not ready to change your life. And if you're not ready to be part of the intensity that is going to go with this program. It's an intense program. We're going to clean you up. That's what it's all about. What is it all about? We're going to help you replan your life. We're going to diagnose your career. We're going to look at where your career is. If you were here in January, you know we did a little bit of that, but it is going to be on a larger scale. I am going to diagnose your career, and I'm going to tell you where you are, all right, where you're coming from, where you're going to, where you are right now, and where you're going to. All right. I did that with somebody a couple of years back. We sat in a restaurant. I asked her, I said, bring your CV. I want to see it. I saw the CV. I saw she was going to a dead end. I was joking with her the other day. I said, you would have ended up in XYZ. And I said to her, this is the analysis that I've done on your career. This is what is happening. You need to call time out. You need to call a time out. And there's certain things that I did it myself. There was a point I got to where things were not going very well in my life. And then when I did the diagnostic, what did I find out? That there were certain things that I needed to have done at certain points in my life that I did not do because I was too busy pursuing my business. And then what did I do? I called the time. I did the very weird thing of calling a time out. I called the time out and I went back to school. Look, that might not be your situation. For every person, there is a situation, and I will show you what the situation is. I am very good at this. Trust me. After working with hundreds of people, I know what time it is. All right. So I will diagnose your career. I will redesign your career. I will show you how to remap your career, and I will show you how to plan to make those transitions that you want to make. All right. So some of the questions that you are asking now, some of the things that you would like me to answer, some of the things that you would like me to talk about, they are better answered in the premium and elite aspect of the program. All right. So let me tell you a little bit more about the program. What are you going to learn when you participate in this 5-week course? You're going to learn how to plan and grow your career. You're going to learn how to avoid major career pitfalls. We talked about career pitfalls. Go and watch my video on career pitfalls. When we're talking about how your career is smelling, you're stagnating, you're being in the same position. Somebody talked to me the other day. If you are that person, you are working in a bank, you are a legal secretary, you are still an assistant manager, you're in your 40s. I can't remember your name, and even if I remembered it, I wouldn't call you out. You need to get in touch with me. I need to talk to you about some things. In your 40s, you're still on that level. We need to sort that out, okay? So we need to start talking about all these things, how to get you out of stagnation, how to get you from a stagnant place to a moving place, all right? I'm going to show you how to map, transform your career, promote your visibility. Some of the challenges I had as a person came as a result of the fact that I had no visibility. I was that kind of person who wants to just, I'm what you call an ambivert. I'm very excitable. I'm all over the, I'm chatty. But at the end of the day, I'd rather spend time. All right. I think it was somebody on this call who explained that to me. I'd rather spend time in my house doing my own thing. I don't like to, go out too much. I don't like to network too much. The only thing is that when I go out and I have fun. All right. So I had to learn to promote myself. I had to learn to promote my visibility, to let people know, look, you know what? I'm here. I can help you. I have the skills. Work with me. And there's a strategy to it. I will teach you that strategy. And then I'm going to show you how to enhance your communication and leadership skills. I've told you some of you go for interviews. It's not because you're not competent. Some of you cannot write your CVs properly. Some of you, you're having challenges in your workplace. You can't communicate properly with your subordinates. You can't communicate with your managers. And it is a communication problem. I can help you through that. All right. I can show you how to strategically go after a 6 to 8 figure job. I was telling one of my mentees there that I told her, I said, from where you're coming from and where you are now, the kind of jobs that you're pitching for, you must reserve time for me in your salary because you have just exploded. She's gone from this level to this level overnight because we work together. All right. And then I will show you how to build that profile on your CV, and then your LinkedIn profile. And I will also show you how to connect with recruiters, okay? Because it's not enough to be ready. You also have to know how to connect with people. All right, who should attend? Who is this program for? It's really for mid to senior level professionals and C or A level professionals, okay? So if you're in that category, this program is for you and you should be part of the program. All right. Yeah. All right. So there are 2 packages in this program. We have the elite package. I'm almost done. All right. I'm running through this very quickly. We have the elite package. First of all, we have the basic package. That's what you're on right now. Anyone can come. 2 hours. I am committed to offering you a minimum of 6 free programs every year. It may be more if my schedule allows it, but the commitment is 6. You get to be on the Telegram group. I have not been as active on the Telegram group as I should have been over the last couple of, because I've been trying to put all of this together, but that's going to become more active. You get to a lot of my free resources, lots of the free videos I'm going to be making. All right. So you get access to all the slides and the videos for this, type of program. I will send them to the Telegram group. All right. And then we have the premium package. And what's the premium package all about? You're on a 5-week program. It's intensive. It's a group coaching program, and you're going to go through 4-5 things that we're going to do during this. I'll show you the what we're going to do specifically. So it's a 5-week group coaching program. We're doing the diagnostic. We're designing your career. So a lot of these questions, some of you were asking me. Somebody was talking to me about business intelligence, the competencies for business intelligence. After we finish doing it, every competence that you can think of in this world, we're going to practice it. Okay, for whatever role, we're going to look at each point of your career and all the roles that you should be preparing for, and I'm going to prepare you for them. All right, and I'm going to show you how to be strategic. If you're in a rut right now, you're stagnant, you can't move, I'm going to show you how to move from one step to the other. All right, and it's a group coaching program. We're going to do it together. All right, so that is it. You cannot get me on an individual level. It will be group coaching. All right, and I just thought that it would be good for you to see a little bit more. I will send this to you because of time. These are some of the things that we're going to do, so you can see there's a whole schedule, there's a curriculum there. I'm going to try to say, I will send you the information pack, and you will let us know if you are interested in being part of this. All right, and then what is the approach? As I said, group coaching. We meet on Saturdays. Every Saturday, I'll give you the time. There will be materials that will be given to you. You study them at your own leisure. But by Thursday, there will be some coursework that will be given to you, all right? Some activities or coursework that will be given to you. And by Thursday, you've got to submit those. And then we have what is called like community discussions. So at the end of this program, there are specific things that you're going to lead with, your career plan, all right? You will have that, your career map. There's certain things that you document, that your self-assessment plan, all right? Your life plan resume, everything will be ready. There are many things that are going to come out of this transformation program when we do it. Then we have the elite package. That one, you get me personally, one-on-one. There will be a group element to that program, all right? So there will be days when those of us who are in that program meet as a group. But there will be days when you will meet with me personally, because there are certain things that we want to. What is the difference between this plan and the last plan? This plan, the last plan, for instance, I don't teach you about how to, I will not personally sit down with you and customize your CV and LinkedIn. I won't do it. I will just show you how to do it. I will walk you through it, give you activities that will help you to, I will coach you. I will assess what it is that you've done, but you're going to do it yourself. However, on the elite plan, I'm going to do it. And anyone who has worked with me on their CV will tell you that if I touch your CV, you will never be, that CV and you will never be the same again. Anyone who has worked with me on CVs, they will tell you, if I get a hold of your CV and I work on it and your profile, you will never be the same again. All right. And then we will have that recruiter and next level connection strategy. We're going to sit down, we're going to look at it and see who should you be connecting with now at this stage in your life. All right. Who are the names? And if I can personally link you to some of those people, I'm going to do that. All right. And then you should, we're also going to do your personal career brand. You must have, what is your career brand? When you walk into an interview, to a high-level interview, or you walk into any place, I tell you something, the reason that I was ignored for the role was because they told me it is so obvious this woman is a career and leadership development coach. We need somebody who is in finance. I have created a brand. So it's a brand that speaks for me and goes before me, all right? And it's working for me, all right? It's just that I said, because of certain things I'm being considered for, I said I'm going to have to stretch myself now and also add certain things to that brand. So we're going to develop your personal branding, your personal career branding and visibility plan. All right. So it's not just about posting on LinkedIn. People think that it's just about LinkedIn. There are other things that you have to do to make yourself visible, all right, as a career professional. So that's what this whole thing is all about. As I said, there will be both group and individual activity. We're going to do a few group activities. We're also going to have individual coaching sessions. Like the other group too, you have materials that you're going to work on at your own pace. And then we come back and we look at those materials together. As I said, the difference between that package, apart from the additional things that I said, is that you also get me personally to work with you one-on-one. All right? All right, so that is it. And I always say to people, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This is the single step that you have taken to come to. I believe that most of the people who are here came here today because they wanted to find out how to enhance their lives. Look, when you look at the 24 hours period that we have in life, all right, the way we count time right now, when you look at the 24-hour period that you have in life, when you calculate how many hours that you spend on your career, you will find that the majority of the time that you spend in this life is spent where? In your career. So you know what? Invest in your career. And I'm glad that you have invested your time, all right, in your career. And you've come here today to spend time with me for 2 hours to give me, to allow me to share some of my information with me. Temilola, I'm looking for you. You're one of the people I'm looking for. So, we've got to talk. There's a lot that we have to, we have discussions to, all right, Henry, thank you for that. Okay. So I'm sorry it was a bit rushed. So much we're trying to cover, but you know what? This is now the time when you can ask me any questions. People are asking me, how can they be part of this program? It's no problem. I'm going to pop our website address. All right, join the Telegram group. This is what I always tell people at the end of this session. We put the Telegram. Monica, can you put the details for the Telegram group in there? And then I will give you the website address. There is a form. Contact me on my website. Just fill that form. Let me know that you're interested. All right, let me know that you're interested in the course, and we will get in touch with you. We will send you a full information pack about the course. My entry level followers, don't worry, I have something for you. We're putting something together for you, and it's going to be something else. I'll get back to you. Those of you who are just starting your careers, who are starting out and you're wondering, Emma, how can I get into this? Don't worry, I have something for you. I have something for everybody, okay? So this is open mic, all right? So remember, if you, this is how to get in touch with me. Go to the website address, fill in the contact form. It works. I will be looking, or Monica will be looking at the back end, okay? And we'll be seeing. Just tell me, this is what, Emma, I'm interested in the program. This is how to contact me. The form speaks for itself anyway, all right? So put it in, and we'll contact you and we'll follow up on you. We open for registration and payment on the 1st of August. Everyone who is ready to commit to this, and you're ready to be part of this, and you pay before the 21st, you get a 25%, automatic 25% discount, all right? You pay before the 21st. I will send you more information about this. Because of time, I'm not going to go on anymore, all right? How to pay, whether you're allowed to pay twice, all of that, I will send you a follow-up email, all right? So thank you for coming. This is how you can reach me. Website address, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. My email address is there. You can send me an email, and then you can, of course, the best place to get me is LinkedIn, all right? Because I'm very LinkedIn, all right? So you can get me on LinkedIn. So it's time for open mic. Anything you want to ask me, go right ahead.